Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lady Sale podcast. My camera is shooting up my nose today, so it's clear, though. I cleaned it before I got on. I joked. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, makeup list today. Did you notice? I think I'm
Yes.
still cute, though. Doesn't matter. I'm
That's
Winona of the And I Thought Ladies, and since you're on the Lady Sale podcast, you know that we're either going to talk about my show, The Managers, or we're going to talk to someone in the show, or we're going to talk to someone who's like a celeb and or manager. I'm going to let you guess. So, yeah, I'm going to let you guess. Okay, you finished guessing? Okay, we're talking to somebody that's going to talk about my show. Moving on. We wrote books. This is how I got involved in the mess in the first place. The whole entertainment industry. We wrote books. We have And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, and I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy. If Only I Were Me, and of course, since we're talking about managers, the Manager script books, which you can pick them all up on BarnesandNobles.com. I think they just became available on Amazon.com. Anyway, not important. Let's go and introduce our guest so she can tell us for the first time, y'all. We are going to have a podcast about the audience reaction of managers. So I get to find out if my writing is good or bad. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. Oh, well, never mind. Public humiliation. Let's go for it. Yes, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Dr.Nagle, and I listened to a couple of episodes of the podcast. You're probably wondering what the bleep I'm doing here, right? But I'm a writer and I'm an educator. And when it comes to all of those things, I think that it's been an interesting listen, because I did a lot of research before I wrote my Hollywood Nights series by Kara North, and you hit a whole lot of the points of that kind of behind the scenes attitude and the people that I had personally just interviewed so that I could make those characters real. I think that comes through. One of the things that I definitely thought along the way is that some of the characters really resonated with Entourage, which is something that you like there. And it's one of those things where you feel like maybe it's stereotypical, but at the same time, I think that there's like that spectrum of people out there in the performance industry. But when you're on the manager side of the performance industry, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're less of an actor. I think in some cases you're probably more of an actor, because you have to change who you are for every client, every customer, and who you're trying to pair up together with those. You've got to be the certain kind of person, but then behind the scenes, you're probably just barely hanging on, I mean, just in the author world, when I had a publisher and I was the editor in chief, and then just managing all the personalities and the books and the timelines and everything, it's it's high drama, and that's like low vis. So I can't imagine what that would be like. And then on I guess like they call them like starlets and whatnot, on the brand new, getting into that public eye element of fame, and you want all of that attention, even if you don't want all of that attention. But at the same time, it's like you don't know how long that wave's gonna roll before it crashes into the shore. So you're just trying to to have a great time and and write it, for lack of a better. I do write erotic romance, so you'll just have to get over some of those. Like everything I say sounds filthy. It's just the way I am.
Since we're talking about that right now, I just have to say, like, when she emailed me back about her initial notes, she was like, I like the line, you wrote her to the top, now you can write her to the bottom. And I was like, no one else has picked this line. And when I wrote it, I was like, it feels so crude.
Well, and my other favorite line in there is when you're talking about him having a firm dad bod, because I was like, yes, she's talking about dad bod. That's great.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
great.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little narcissistic since we are getting an audience review
Mhm.
of, wow, of the show. I would like to know, are there any elements of the characters that you feel are just true or just like resonate and go, that was made for TV? You don't have to answer the question if it's too hard. I completely understand.
Yeah, no, okay, so I'm a person who occasionally gets like 0.5 star reviews on my work. So I know that criticism is difficult to take. And then like the next person gives you like a 5 star and you're kind of like, are they reading the same book? But it's always like that perspective of, who enjoys what's in there. And I think that the majority of your characters really sounded, like true. I think that possibly do more to like the performance piece of it. um some of them would like articulate or maybe not, where you kind of feel like somebody maybe should have been pushing back a little harder or something. And then some of that could have just been from the audio and the scene, or be able to hear, because there were like just a couple points where it was a little bit lower, and it was kind of like, is is that intentional, or is that mic off? And then yeah, but the diva moments of it, I think, were excellent. um and you expect that to be over the top, so why wouldn't they? I mean, when they're being that way, it is in that kind of performance capacity. They're you know showing out, then that's part of it. I don't know how else you could have written that.
Thank you. So it was just interesting because in a way the story was interesting and a little bit true, because we were on tour and we had multiple managers, and so it was interesting being on tour with more than one manager. And we were shooting a reality show, so it was odd. So let's move on next to, so like when people hear it, they, like people in Hollywood go, well, why would there be four of them? And then, explain it. And a lot of people are like, I feel like the managers run together. So I didn't mean to ask this question. I would love to know, how did you feel that the managers did have their individual voice?
No, I definitely think that they had an individual voice. I think that it was probably the nature of the job and the fact that their collective task, um, probably it could have been a place where somebody is like hearing like they ran together. It's not necessarily that they ran together. It was anyone who's ever worked in a situation where you've had more than two people on a task, it does run together. I mean, you could be a completely diverse staff in all aspects of that way and sound the same, because you're hitting the same mark, like you're after the same thing. um and of course, when you have someone that kind of highlights out as a more robust personality, they're going to stand out and it's going to overshadow some of the others. But that's teamwork, and
Like, I
somebody's
think you're talking
always
about,
gonna.
and that lead Ronald, I feel like had in episode 1, Ronald had a large part. And then episode 2, his part got cut a lot. The actor portraying was like, I was so ready, and then I kept flipping through the script. I'm like, wait, where am I?
Like, we just shut you up, Ronald.
This one is about Sean.
Right.
What is he doing?
And that's the other aspect of it too, is like when you're featuring someone, they're gonna be louder. Because they're the.
And Kelly didn't have much to say in the first one, so you didn't really know her. So the second one was about a lot more about Kelly. Okay. So let's I was going to take it off of me for a moment, but I did have one more question. The concept of the show altogether, did you feel, was it real? Was it something that could definitely play well, or doesn't play well?
I mean, again, as someone who, I wouldn't say that I like follow the careers and lives of actors pretty much beyond Jake Gyllenhaal. But it's
that's
like I
another
follow
reason you're
his.
here, because you said you followed one actor's career, and I was like, wait, so she would know things.
I, yes, I know. I know entirely too many things because of research backtracking through different aspects of interviews that man's done. So it is kind of what that and author Tilly Green, or who like sparked that series, because she was just like, well, why don't you write something, just pull that all over, the Hollywood aspect of things in fiction. Because we were at a conference, whatever, and talking, and I was like, did you know this? Did you know that a personal assistant makes more than a college professor? And she was like, what? And so that's like, what the deuce? And that's kind of what started that. And yeah, through researching them, through the finance aspect of it, through like the problems that they have, and then you can just sort of go digging through past articles and interviews and the things people let slip. um and if you're a writer, it's just research. It's the same as if I were going through like a scholarly document, digging for the elements that I need. And so yeah, I think that you hit on a lot of the complications of that in a very real way, and especially having multiple managers, how that layered those complications and the relationships that people are in. And when you work together and you're working with your significant other, and you work with your best friend, like there are times where that's not your friend, it's the enemy. It's like, we're gonna have to take a time out and come back to this and be friends again. And that's just the nature, that you can't spend that much time with someone in it and not start pulling up some conflict, or that amount of time with someone, especially around a lot of attractive people, or a lot of people doing things that are attractive to you, and not get into your feelings, and possibly get some of those mixed up. And I always say that in class, like if a student was had like the nerve to try to cross a line or whatever, I'm like, you're trust me, you're not attracted to me, you're attracted to what you see here. You want something, but it I assure you, it is not me. You want the degree, you want the you want what you feel I represent. And that happens, I think, a lot in Hollywood, and in the entertainment industry in general. It's like, you don't really want their career, you want your career, you want what they have in your way as success. And I think that that came through, especially with that scene where the conversation shifted away from the career on that interview, that interview portion. And it's kind of like, why would you blindside us with asking something like that? Why? Because it's about her ratings. And at some point, even if you're friends and you know that this is going to cause like a rift, this is going to be a problem, it's it's a dog eat dog situation. So which is it going to be?
Okay, I love the fact that you mentioned her ratings, because yeah, I don't think I thought about that when writing it, but yeah, that's true. It was about her ratings. And yeah. How very selfish of that person. That I created. Okay. So, okay, enough about me. You said you researched for a book, Hollywood Nights. How did you go about that research, and what is the book about, and where can we buy it?
Oh, okay. So Hollywood Nights, oh my gosh, it's it's old as dirt now. It is, it's probably a good 8 or 9 years old. And how I went about researching that is like, again, I saw this picture, I think it was in like Details magazine, of of my muse, Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was in this lovely gray sweater, and like a darker gray pants, and white chucks, like a white collared shirt. I mean, it's ridiculous, the details of what I remember. I can't tell you what I wore on my 30th birthday, but I can tell you what that man wore in magazines. I don't even know how many years ago. but then it was kind of like this whole interview process thing that he did there. And I was sort of like, I wonder if who who's his assistant, and I think somewhere there was some comment about someone carrying an umbrella for him or something. And I was kind of like, that's somebody's job, like they're getting paid for that. He is an actor. He does have, all this extra stuff, he's doing lines or whatnot. And probably, yeah, could he do his own umbrella? Most likely. But if he did, then somebody would be out of job. So is it, is it ego, or is it respect for the people who are on there to assist you on set? And probably because I put him on this like whole different level, I'm like, no, he's doing that to protect someone's job, not because he's, a man who can't carry his own umbrella. So that led me to looking up personal assistants. And then I started doing research on that. And then it hurt. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, it hurt to find out that, some of those people are making, more than a full-time college professor, because obviously at that time I was working full-time in academics. And that was, I was like, are you kidding me? And so I made sure to make that note in there about that. Is like, Shay says to Frankie at some point, you're going to just think about it. You're going to get paid more to do less. But it's just different. There isn't a less, because you're at their beck and call, and you've got like non-disclosure agreements, because stuff that regular people don't know, don't need to know, shouldn't know, kind of stuff. And that's how that started. So, and then that series went on and on and on and on forever. There are like 2 print volumes of it, and I don't know. I have another one that's going to be, probably releasing here in the next couple months, that I've had it written forever. I just haven't released it. I do that a lot. I just write stuff, put it in a folder, and eventually, I'll send it off for edits and then release it. That's the problem with being an indie author, is I don't have someone to answer to other than me. So I just do shit as I feel like it.
No. That's the joys of being an indie
Right, I
author.
was gonna say, Pablo, joy.
The
Joy,
joy
yes,
of
David
it.
here from the background that you'll never be able to see.
I mean, no one cares about this, but Jay just got this adorable new dress. And so she came in, she's like, look at my new dress. And
Excuse me, whatever. I was like laying on the couch sick, being like, ugh.
But she got a new dress.
New dress. Put on.
Anyway, sorry.
That is, but you know what, like, that's awesome, because a change of attitude, change of outfit can change an attitude. It's like, I may be feeling like crap, but I look awesome in this new dress.
Right.
So,
and I do look amazing in this new dress, but I'm still like, but I look amazing.
I feel awful, but look at me. That's acting right there. That's real.
I was just about to say, you should be in the next podcast. We can write you a role. And
Absolutely.
You can write me in.
I can write you in, because we have
as a personal assistant.
Right.
As a literary personal assistant.
Yeah.
My doctor, literary personal assistant.
Exactly. She'll have a PhD and be a literary assistant.
Right. Just making complaining about people's grammar, and then like writing things that aren't spelled correctly.
Oh my goodness, I meant to ask you this, because now that we're talking about this, you are in the academic space, and I recognize that Ronald is an academic, graduated from an active creative writing course, and he is the assistant to this writing group. How did we hit the balance right on that? Like, because at the same time, he's like, I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that, because but at the same time, he has his literary base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to that aspect of things, it's really what people specialize in, and what they look for. And the problem with that, and and you know, like as poets, like the problem with creative writing is that we all are on this pendulum of my writing is the best thing ever. Everyone should read it. And this sucks. It can never see the light of day. And so in 1 minute when we're talking to someone else, it's like I'm a complete and total professional. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then, you know, behind the scenes, it's like I can't make words.
You know how many days I've had, and I'm like, I think of a word, I'm like, how do you spell it? It begins with a F? No, it's a PH. And you're like, you've been writing too long. Let it go.
And that's it right there, is that you get to this point where, you know, you're looking at the word and thinking, is that the way you spelled the?
You're like, no, it has to have a Y. And then
It
you move
feels
on. You're
weird.
like, it's so true. It is so true. So one more question about the show, and then we're coming back to you.
Okay.
In your life. What was your favorite scene and favorite person? Or favorite scene?
Well,
favorite
I was gonna say, like, I think the girls are my favorite person, or my favorite people, because like they're, you know, like even though it's about the managers, there are no managers without the people to manage. And so giving them, you know, complicated lives, like coming in late, getting up early, wearing the same dress, you know, who says that's not her signature dress? Why can't she wear it? So, you know, who is it Janelle Monáe? She wore tuxes for the first part of her thing. Lady Gaga dressed like art for the first part of, you know, her thing, because that's like a signature look. So you know, sometimes they seem like kind of new managers in that way of, you know, worried about their part of it rather than keeping their focus on, you know, on their talent and you know, making sure that they did what they said they were going to do. And you know, and it says like we're always on time. You come in late, but you're up, you're ready, you're always on time. So, you know, what's the problem? So I guess like they would be my favorite characters, just because without them, you know, the rest doesn't happen. You don't get to see anyone else's personality without them, because there's no conflict without them. You're not arguing over who's treating them correctly, who's not. It's
I wouldn't say like, oh, so you guys, you know that I referred to an email before where like when she did the initial listen through, she's like, here are my notes. So I'm going to refer to that email again. She said something that I had never heard anyone say, which made me like, I picked the right person to do this. She was like, no one seems to recognize like there's this balance that's a balancing act that's going on. And like at any moment, it could just not go either way and it won't be a good thing. How did you find that? First of all, because no one notices. How did you figure that out?
I don't know. Jake Gyllenhaal told me in a dream. I don't know. No freaking idea. I think I've just watched, you know, like again, like when you study, I did do a film criticism class and I did do a screenwriting, you know, class in my undergraduate. So I think maybe that gives me some, you know, I have like, you know, like I have PTSD from the Marine Corps, but I have PTSD from my screenwriting class because I did not understand. I'm like, I don't understand how you want me to put these three, like inside afternoon, you know, living room, and then go into dialogue. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like as a writer, as a fiction writer, I'm like, I'm missing a whole lot of details here. And he's like, well, somebody else would be setting that up. And I'm like, I don't want someone else to set that. Like, I want to tell you what I want that room to look like. I don't want someone else setting that up. So there was that control issue that I imagine that, you know, it is a real gift to be able to narrow that stuff down and be that concise without, you know, just putting your words down and that vision being in your head and not being able to put it on on a page fully and then expecting someone to grasp that and then perform it. I mean, it's an interesting and amazing balance that I don't know it always, that it always hits for a lot of people. But certainly I think that with this, because you could probably talk to those actors ahead of time and give them some background on nothing, like they just picked them up and rolled. Yeah, I that would have drove me crazy. I'd be like, okay, you are a middle-aged man. These are your problems. This is your life story. You make that work. But I just yeah. Because if they didn't get it right, I'd be upset because it's that. But that's me and my own control issues. So I don't know. Maybe because I have my own, control issues for it.
I want to say my next question was going to be, would you write a script? But I feel like you've answered it. But just in case you missed anything, would you write a script? Since you write novels, you might as well adapt one book. If anything else, Hollywood Nights you should adapt it.
I think if anything, like the thing that people want adapted is my young adult series, the Drummonds. Like they love that series. That they're like, this would be perfect on Netflix, and I believe it. Like I absolutely believe it. I think that I think that more people should write teen fiction that way, because it gives a lot more insight into the things that I wish maybe somebody would have talked to and explained and worked out. When I was younger, I exercise a lot of demons in that young adult fiction. But with that said, yeah, no, somebody else would have to do it. But I would be freaking out if somebody else was doing it. Like I would just need to be a part of it, because I'm attached to that character, to that lead character. And he's not the lead character throughout the whole thing. Like he's just a character that's through the entire series. But yeah, I would not just let Drum go to anyone.
I understand that.
And that's the other thing. Like there's the the whole kill your darlings, the whole you have to love something and let it go. I can let go of a lot of things. Hollywood Nights, yeah, sure, somebody wants to come write that up, knock it out. Like we can do that. Pretty much every other book that I've ever written, sure, turn it into, let's roll. Even my young adult, like the other one, Dating Wyatt's Mom, sure, go ahead, let's do that. Drum, no. I'm going to need control over, I'm going to need some final say.
Wow.
You can't mess up that character.
Oh wow, I forgot the next question I was going to ask you about this. So that was
because I'm too intense about that though.
No, I thoroughly understand. Most of the times when you write a book, everyone's like, this is my baby. And I'm like, this is definitely someone I adopted. Because the characters ran the show. So I just wrote. Someone I adopted. Now they graduated. Bye-bye off into the world. If you need help, let me know. That's pretty much how I feel. And then I wrote Managers and I was like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. No, I have to be there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You have to be a part of it. Yeah. There are just certain things that there are certain things that you can write and let go off into the world and do their thing or not. And then there are certain things that you're just like, I don't care if no one else ever reads this. This is mine. I love this.
Oh, you covered my second question too. That's why I had forgotten. My second question was I was going to ask you what books you would want to be adapted to the screen. And if you know who you want to play someone, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing, I assume,
Jake Gyllenhaal is playing someone.
Yeah. Even himself.
What would oh my goodness. See, and I think that Awkward is a fun book. And Awkward is awkward is kind of awkward to talk about. It's about a widow who runs into this actor, and she's there on a creative writing thing because she wrote a book about her, her life, and becoming a widow and this whole thing. And she teaches, English and writing and whatnot at a university in North Carolina, because I base a lot of things around here because that's where I'm at. And so one of her old friends invites her up to do this whole creative writing workshop thing. It's in the winter. He is an actor who had a motorcycle accident and lost part of his leg. So he went from being a blockbuster star to not, like ghost once the media died down. So he's like just sitting in a coffee shop like Joe Public, and she of course is obsessed with him because why wouldn't she be? And so she notices him, and then they have this odd conversation, and which leads to which obviously, because this is how everyone meets people, which leads to her hotel room and and great sex after the first round, which was not so great. But that's why it's awkward, right? Because you don't really know this person. You've got all these things or whatever. And then it just sort of builds in this whole crazy, spun up, relationship that ends with, of course, a happily ever after. But I think that would be a fun movie, just because it's different. There's nothing out there like that. And everyone's obsessed with celebrities. I mean, even with the shutdown of things, like we're still just looking to see who's, what is someone doing, which is sad. But
and the final question, first of all, the first part of the question is, where can people find out more information about you? Now I'm going to make that the second question. I lied. The first question is going to be like, if you could summarize this show like in like a small little 3 to 5 sentence paragraph, what would you say? And would you say yes or no to listening to it?
Well, I would definitely say yes to listening to it. And I think that this show would be an inspiration for anyone out there that is trying to write, screenplays, podcasts, like that live entertainment factor, even playwriting, because it was an ensemble, cast. I think that it is a valuable, research tool at the very least, because it does have a variety of elements and a variety of characters, and they're all interacting very fast paced in a very condensed amount of time. And there's so much plot and there's so much, happening that you can see it, even though you can't see any of it. And so I think that that's a tribute to the pacing, of it. So yeah, I think it would be interesting. I think that with all the like the movement, that would be interesting to me, is like if they got up and like performed it, is if they would be able to move as like as quickly through it. But I can also see why some people would not want to perform it, since you throw things at, like, since you throw a few things. So.
Oh, so the review from a director. So we have a friend that's a director out in LA. And so we gave it to her to read. Actually, she owns her own production company. We gave it to her to read, and she says, this is nice, but the beginning has to have action. And so,
and you give it action.
So I was like, let's do some action. Hot coffee it is then. Okay, so the last question is concerning you, and where can people find out more information about you, pick up your books, follow you on social media, or listen to your podcast?
Pretty much everything can be at a one-stop shop with the www.creativewritingwithdrnagle.com. But that's like, the Nagle is N as in Nancy, A as in apple, G as in golf, L as in Lima, E as in echo. I went totally military back with that. I was trying not to, but it's harder to think of of the other letter of another phrase, but yeah, so it's creativewritingwithdrnagle.com, and it's all there. Like my nonfiction is there, which is things about, I have like a little book called Dearing the Author. That's just kind of, best advice, some of which I don't even practice, but I'm aware of. I admit that in there. And and I did like another one called Amidst Madness, that kind of took place in the pandemic. You can't miss that because it's me with a mask on at an event, but behind me is total, it looks, like it was an Alice in Wonderland thing. It was just a fun thing that one of the cover artists did. And I was like, let me buy that cover. I'm going to use it for a book. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, I am. And then my fiction for Kara North, September North, and Echo North is all up there. My blog is up and running, and authors are contributing to that. Like they're writing up little things here and there about, like what they're doing. My newsletter is building. So I'm starting to practice a little bit more of the authorship. So it's a good place to be. And the podcast, like the link to that's on there, but you can find it anywhere like Amazon, iTunes, Google, all the rest of that.
Dr. Nagle, Dr. Tanya, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Ladies Tale podcast. I now officially know if my show is not good or not, which I'm so excited to find out. It's decent. It's definitely a decent show. So everyone, please go check her out, and you can check out everything your ladies are doing at www.andithoughtLadies.com. You can also support our charities there when you go down to the middle of the page. There's a different tagline for this about Laura, ladies, and stories and life, but it's been a minute since I've done a Ladies Tale podcast, so it's going to be like, if wisdom is all around you, if you're open to finding it and accepting it. You want to hear the other tagline, you need to listen to the other shows. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and Jade from behind the scenes. Bye bye. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.